Hello, this is Professor Warwath. I want to talk briefly about a topic that I think is very timely. And I think this is something that all project managers, probably around the world, especially in the software domain, are thinking about now, possibly more than ever. And that is, what is the role of artificial intelligence, Gen AI, right, including large language models, to the field of software project management? What does it mean? And how is the role of project management going to change and evolve in the months and years ahead? And I say months because Gen AI is evolving very, very quickly, faster than anyone thought possible. The field is moving very, very fast, and the tools are evolving so quickly. And you'll see in a few moments, but it's faster than anyone would have predicted. Let's take a step back. Let's look briefly on what is this thing we call project management from the textbooks, from the PMP, from the PMI, Project Management Institute, right? It's all about defining the scope of a project, often through scenario analysis and feasibility studies. What is possible? What is necessary? What is optimal in terms of scope of a project in a given time frame, in a given context, of a window of opportunity in a marketplace that might be very competitive and might have competing products and services in the field already or about to be introduced. So a little bit of game theory here, right? How does your product or service introduction into the market change the complexion of the market, right? So defining the goals, the objectives, the requirements, and assessing the impact, right? All of these things teams of people used to do, right? Market research people, marketing analysts, product managers, people with a variety of titles, but with excellent, in many cases, excellent business skills, right? Looking at the data, trying to understand what the introduction of a new product would mean, what kind of share you could obtain based on all the available data that's already out there, and data that could be collected in terms of active market research, right? Estimating the effort, resources, and time required to execute a project. Now, where does this come from? Historical data, right? So you have to imagine a data-intensive organization that has quantified data already stored in their data systems that have captured actual time and resources and effort required to execute projects in the past. Being able to characterize those projects from the past based on characteristics of size and complexity, technological advancement, et cetera, right? Planning the project step by step, right? Having a schedule, having a work breakdown structure, having all of the elements of a project plan, right? If you have that historically in your database, right, one project can start looking like another with variations on the theme based on the scope. Everything goes back to the scope, right? Securing the funds and setting expectations with stakeholders. So understanding the plan means you can probably quantify the cost of the plan, which means that you can help understand what funds will be needed for every element of the plan, not just the labor, but the capital requirements, the materials, the logistics, the time, the dollars, et cetera, et cetera. You can even do a time phase budget based on that, what you're going to need and when you're going to need it, right? Securing the resources, right? So this now gets beyond planning and you're actually getting people assigned to the project, names, dates, commitments, right? Utilizations, getting the right skills in the right place, getting the right time availability from these folks, getting the people motivated to work on your project. So give them some sort of goal, I guess, or some sort of strategy behind the project to motivate them to work on it with the assurance that, if they're successful, the project will be successful and it'll help lead to the success of the organization, right? From here, you go into execution mode, right? And most project managers historically don't write code. In some cases they do, but it's rare that the project manager would be able to write all their own code. They would have a team of people working for them, writing the code and delivering the code, including the testing, the analysis, the design, the testing, the field deployment, the feedback, and defect resolution, right? The release of the code and getting the next steps in the roadmap already solidified and planned out and ready to go. So this is the execution phase. And during the execution phase, the project manager is monitoring progress, holding the team accountable, using progress updates, and also solving problems along the way, right? So if there's an issue with resource availability or a specific defect that can't be solved or fixed, or some sort of technical capability that can't be accessed, the project manager is out trying to resolve those issues, right? Communicating with stakeholders, periodic status updates, making sure people are on board with where the project is and where it's supposed to be, and then ultimately final delivery and closeout. So getting customer signature and approval on the final deliverables, or getting that product into the market and getting the pipelines filled, right? When I was back in the day working on software projects, the dream goal was somehow to have automatic coding. Once upon a time, large companies that were software intensive were investigating and investing in automatic software coding tools. These were tools that built on system simulations or requirements models such as DOORS, Simulink, and other models that would basically allow you to go from a model to P code to real code, right? And hopefully in an accelerated, higher quality fashion with fewer resources. That was the ideal. We spent roughly 20 years working on this kind of stuff, right? With marginal results, I would say, especially when you have an embedded legacy environment with code that was maybe 10 years old itself. Trying to work within that legacy situation makes automatic code generation even more difficult, right? Which is why coding has always been, at least historically, up until the last few months, the last few years, very manual, labor-intensive process, right? Requiring very smart people working on code night and day. Now, today, 2025, a significant fraction of new code written by Microsoft and others is being done by AI, right? In fact, Google themselves is on the record as saying, as of 2024, just a couple months ago, 25% of all source code at Google is being generated by AI. And that number is growing every day. And this is phenomenal. I mean, if you think about it, yes, there've been headcount reductions as a result, perhaps, and also limited need to hire when a lot of the code is being written by generative AI technologies, right? What does it mean when code can be automatically generated in a fraction of the normal time? When code can be tested automatically, when it can be, defined by requirements that are also generated automatically, when project plans, all of the steps that I talked about 2 or 3 slides ago, right, can be generated automatically, when cycle times and dev costs are dramatically reduced as a result of all of this automation, right? What does it all mean? I'm not here to tell you I have all those answers, but I do know that it means we're going to be more agile. We're going to be much more cost effective. We're not going to have the large teams we're used to, right? And in this extreme, we might imagine one day, maybe that day is tomorrow, but one day having, instead of a dev team of dozens or hundreds, back in the day, we have 200 person teams. Is it possible that we can boil it all down to a dev team of one? In essence, one person who's feeding the LLMs with all the right information, linking all the various specialized LLMs together in a proprietary environment, right? Closed system that would develop the new product for you from scratch and automatically, right? Stepping back, right? How can AI help in planning, right? AI tools can streamline project planning by analyzing vast data sets. Planning is nothing more than understanding, forecasting the future, right? Planning for the future based on historical data. So if you have the data sets, if you have a data intensive organization, AI can help by analyzing those data sets to say, okay, we've got the requirements over here. We've got previous projects over there. We can use one against the other to actually determine what is the most likely and most optimal plan for generating this new set of code against a new set of requirements, right? So what is done by humans will be done mostly by machine in the future. The PM of the future will be more focused on iterating between a series of bots and agents to realize a new product or service, right? Resource allocation, assuming we still have humans doing this work, right? What is their availability? What is their skill set, right? What is their location? What is their pay grade? How can we integrate the right people to work on this project in this predefined window of time, right? Who can pull this thing together based on, again, the data that's hopefully sitting out there as to who's available when and what skill sets do they have. The work breakdown structure can point you in the right direction as to which people you need and when do you need them, right? The AI can assess resource gaps to tell you where you have a shortage. Maybe you need to bring in a third party, or you need to hire somebody because this shortage is a long-term shortage. You have, full-time people you need to hire, right? Resource allocation. Maybe you look at priorities and you say this project is higher priority than some other project, and you can redeploy those resources. These things are very difficult in the politically focused organization that I came from, where nobody's going to release a resource to work on another project without getting a VP involved, right? You had to go to the VP and say, this project, my project is more important than some other one, release those resources to me, right? In the world of the future, the AI can basically make those recommendations and potentially even make those decisions and say, we're making that decision to redeploy those resources effective now, right? AI can generate requisitions for missing resources automatically, right? And post them automatically. And you can start getting those interviews and those candidates pouring in the door in short order if the bureaucracy is reduced and if the AI is empowered to do the linkage between those resource shortages, the job descriptions, and the posting process for HR and for recruiting. On scheduling, right? Real-time adjustments to schedules based on updates that are coming in every day from the various members of the team, right? So your AI can basically update the schedule and then make adjustments in terms of, well, this is the new milestone date, or this is what we need to do to maintain the old milestone date. We have to work overtime here, maybe overtime there, right? AI algorithms predict project durations based on historical data, reducing scheduling conflicts, right? Now we're going to move to risk. And I got to admit, risk is both a huge opportunity and that's already being fulfilled in some ways. In fact, there's already a series of tools out there from Risk IQ to Qualys and RiskMate and Deep AI. But frankly, many of these are cybersecurity type tools, right? Tools that will assess your cyber environment and try to give you a sense of what risks are out there and help you manage those in real time. Again, more tools that are general PM tools, right? So such as Zapier and Taskade. One is much more popular, I guess, in terms of connecting applications without in-depth technical expertise. So this is really building applications. This one is a little bit more for task management and collaboration. Ayanza is a software tool that helps project managers manage projects from implementation to completion, right? So there are tools that are out there. Again, resource allocation in terms of understanding efficiencies, unused capacity, and then the requirements for the organization, right? What's the future of tech, right? The headcount of Twitter has dropped by 80% and is now, in 2024 at least, around 1,300 employees. So what does that mean? Facebook, Meta continues to grow, and Twitter continues to shrink. Performance monitoring. This is where I think AI can come in extremely handy. Real-time data analysis, predictive insights, automated reporting are all capabilities of tools as they exist today, right? Future trends, advancements on the horizon, right? Emerging AI technologies like advanced machine learning and blockchain are set to revolutionize project management practices, making them smarter and more efficient, right? The role of software engineer, product manager, and project manager and quality control may merge. What I would call, and what others have called, the army of one, right? So you don't need a whole department anymore. You don't need a whole project team anymore. These various bots, agents, and LLMs could be orchestrated by a single person who has the ability to understand from start to finish, cradle to grave, requirements to delivery, right? All of the steps needed, all of the tools needed, and all of the checks and balances needed to deliver a high quality product, right? The active planning and scheduling and monitoring may be largely automated and may be largely trivial, because if it used to take, let's say, 6 to 12 months to deliver a product, you can do that in as many days with the tools that are out there, with the validation steps that might be needed in between each step. Yeah, I mean, you might have a completely different world on your hands, right? And it's a world that I think people who are generalists more than specialists, people who have big picture orientation and yet have the ability to focus on a task and get it done, right? People who have a history of getting things done, people who are comfortable with AI and the various tools that are out there. Not one tool, but the whole portfolio of tools that are out there, right? This new role of engineering manager would be responsible for being the human supervisor in the room, prompting and overseeing the automation and the agents and the sensors to make sure projects stay on track with minimal human oversight and, frankly, minimal human intervention, right? Two different approaches, right? The Twitter approach, down 80%, like I said, in less than 2 years, still functioning after ramping down from 8,000 to 1,500 employees. Twitter is a 100% software company. Revenue has declined, however, by 50%. But that's not to say it won't rebound, right? Tesla has seen a 14% headcount decline, and yet expects a 20% growth in revenue. And it's the same leader of both, if you will, Elon Musk, right? And this kind of leads to the automation issue in general, right? So if you think about where humanoid robots might be taking us, and I'm not saying that software needs humanoid robots, but maybe you need it in the hardware development side, or maybe you need this in other aspects of production and delivery, right? But they're eventually going to take over the employment landscape, right? If you look at the operating costs, according to Tony Seba, who's an expert futurist, and I truly believe he's got a pretty good handle on this stuff. He says the robot operating costs are $10 an hour, which basically precludes, in essence, it's competitive today in 2025. It's competitive today in the U.S. labor market, right? Now, when you go to the Mexican or the Chinese or the Korean or the Indonesian labor markets, $10 an hour might not be very competitive. But within 10 years, at $1 an hour, I suspect you will be, right? In 10 more years, at 10 cents per hour, we're going to have basically an environment that's filled with humanoid robots, if these curves are correct, right? Tony's been correct before on energy costs, on costs of battery technology, photovoltaic cells, and electric vehicles. So I've seen his curves, I've seen his predictions over the last 15 years. If he's true here and accurate here, it's going to revolutionize the workplace as we know it, right? So this could be a transformative time for the world and for capitalism. Will the Dow hit 100,000? Denver says that this will happen by 2034. And I guess the question for you in your career is, what role will you play, right? You can be a victim, meaning somebody who gets displaced by all these changes, or a perp, somebody who's actually implementing these changes and is at the cutting edge of getting these changes put into the field, implemented in ways that will change, hopefully, the landscape of the world, right? We will be more educated. We will be more wealthy when the wealth is being literally created by machines under our control. So with that, I will leave it to you guys to discuss whether this is a good development or a bad development. I hate to say it, though, it's probably going to happen either way. So take care.